Hi, I'm Nick Moffat, and welcome to my favorite poem project. When I was tasked to make a presentation about my favorite poem, it was kind of hard for me because I don't have a favorite poem. I like the idea of poetry more than I actually like poetry. I listen to a lot of music and I read a lot of lyrics and find a lot of meaning in lyrics, but I thought this would be a good opportunity to actually explore poetry and poets. So I went to some of my favorite artists and other forms of art and found sort of thread lines of what poems might or poets or poetry might come through these thread lines. So, like one of my favorite movies is called Patterson, and it's about a poet, and his favorite poet is William Carlos Williams. So I read some of his stuff. I'm a big Bob Dylan fan, so I went to Allen Ginsberg. I love Bukowski's work, so I read some of his poetry. But there was still some sort of emotional distance between everything that I was reading. And through this research, through this exploration, I found a poem that it was on some post that said every parent should read this poem. So, I read it and I got very emotional. Just a little bit about me. I'm a young father. My daughter is under 2 years old. My wife is expecting our second kid in just a few weeks. And it's very emotional and it's really exciting. And being a parent is the best thing that's ever happened to me. It's definitely the most work I've ever put into anything, but it's rewarding in the biggest ways imaginable. I love it. And there's all these cliches that come along with being a parent that people tell you, and it's hard to totally take some of them seriously because there's so many of them, and then you're living the cliches like, oh wow, they do grow up so fast. And I think that's why I had such a strong emotional reaction to this poem, because that's what this is about. It's about growing up and how the kid grows up and to treasure those small moments. And honestly, I don't even know if this is a very well written poem. I don't think it's one of the best poems I've ever heard, like in terms of quality, but I had a strong emotional reaction to it. And I think that's what poetry is about. So I'm going to read this poem to you, and hopefully you enjoy it. The Last Time, author unknown. From the moment you hold your baby in your arms, you will never be the same. You might long for the person you were before, when you had freedom and time, and nothing in particular to worry about. You will know tiredness like you never knew it before, and days will run into days that are exactly the same, full of feedings and burping, nappy changes and crying, whining and fighting, naps or a lack of naps. It might seem like a never-ending cycle. But don't forget, there is a last time for everything. There will come a time when you will feed your baby for the very last time. They will fall asleep on you after a long day, and it will be the last time you ever hold your sleeping child. One day you will carry them on your hip, then set them down, and never pick them up that way again. You will scrub their hair in the bath one night, and from that day on, they will want to bathe alone. They will hold your hand to cross the road, then never reach for it again. They will creep into your room at midnight for cuddles, and it will be the last night you ever wake to this. One afternoon you will sing The Wheels on the Bus, and do all the actions, then never sing them that song again. They will kiss you goodbye at the school gate. The next day they will ask to walk to the gate alone. You will read a final bedtime story and wipe your last dirty face. They will one day run to you with arms raised for the very last time. The thing is, you won't know when it's the last time until there are no more times, and even then, it will take you a while to realize. So while you're living in these times, remember there are only so many of them, and when they're gone, you will yearn for just one more day of them, for one last time. I think I found this poem so emotional because it's all about that growing and changing that all of us experience. It's a very natural part of life, but it's still sad seeing how things change and how they don't stay the same. And a lot of times they turn into better things, but it really is a reminder to appreciate every moment and appreciate the small little things that happen on a day-to-day basis, and it makes me want to treasure all the moments. And in a weird way, it's also a reflection of how much I've changed. Whereas 3 years ago I might have seen this post or on Facebook or something and just scrolled by it as if it was nothing, like who cares. And now I read it and I get extremely emotional, and I feel like I need to be a better person because of it. So, like I said, I don't know if this is my all-time favorite poem, and I also don't know if it's even the best poem ever written, but it made me feel something very strongly. So, um, this has been my favorite poem project. Thanks for watching.